Sorry, you're going to have to bear with me because I do have beginnings of what looks like a cold. So, I'm not big on titles, but I do have one. Executive Manager of Applications in CSIRO. So, within that group, I've got approximately 50, 60, 65 staff and contractors that are working on a number of initiatives. But the one we're all here to talk about today is CRM. A bit of an introduction, how did we get there? It started in March 2015. We started with nothing. Okay, so we had roughly 12, 18 months worth of discussion and big, fat, heavy documents around how we're going to transform this big end-to-end scientific process in CSIRO. And after 12 to 18 months of talking, we had nothing. March 2015. By August 2015, we had a whole new platform in place behind the firewall, so on-prem, with our customer data in there and this whole new system in there where we're managing scientific opportunities and projects. So that's roughly 6 months, which I think is pretty good when you're starting with nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a little bit of our architecture. Now, when I talk architecture, I'm not a software developer, I'm not a software architect, hell, I'm not even a BA. Okay, so this is really, really high level, but I'll give you an understanding of the components we've put in place. I'll give you an overview of the solutions we've done, a couple of things in there I think you might find useful, some add-ins we've added, and then at the end we're going to talk how we did get there that quickly. So we'll look at some agile and some lean startup stuff. Okay, I'm going to start on this side. We're looking at external users, registered external users. I'll give you an example of this at the moment. So we have settled on IntelliDocs as our forms engine. So we took a decision to actually decouple our forms solution from the underlying platforms. And we did settle in IntelliDocs. We're in the process of standing up ADX Studio as our customer-facing portals. Moving inside, again, IntelliDocs is our forms engine. Document management is a combination of SharePoint, soon to be underpinned by Trim. Line of business workflow. So this is where we have settled on Dynamics CRM for our line of business solutions. In combination with SAP, into a SAP data warehouse. We've done our own work on shared services. Okay, so we haven't done anything around a commercial enterprise service bus. We took the decision probably 2 years ago to start developing our own. That's not to say that we won't flip over into a commercial product sooner rather than later. All underpinned by SQL. So that just sets the context of what we've got in place. Now, I'm happy for this to be a conversation rather than me standing up and lecturing at you, so feel free to ask questions as we go. Yep.
Sorry, what we saying is our arrow on the keyboard is what we're saying.
Yep. All right, so what have we got in place? Current workloads. CRM is CRM, so we've got customer management in there. So when we went from March 2015 to August 2015, we had all of our customer data in SAP CRM, primarily used by our finance service centre to either charge people or to pay people. So our researchers had no visibility into our customer data. They were standing up their own CRM systems throughout our business units. So we took all of our customer data out of SAP CRM, put it into Dynamics. We still have a formal approval process in place to actually create a customer and a contact with even ASIC lookup. What we are now actually presenting, so this is really, really basic stuff, but when you're presenting it to an organisation of 6,000 to 7,000 people, it's actually been a real step change. So now we have a customer data sheet. So our customers, the customers CSIRO do work for, everyone has visibility of them, everyone in the organisation, so nothing's hidden. We also have a customer data sheet. So again, we have direct visibility into which business units are working with which customers, what projects, how much a customer is actually paying us for projects. So the first time in a long time, the organisation as its researchers has real visibility over its customer data. Have we connected it to Outlook? No, we haven't. Okay. Will we? Yes, we will. We're doing some thinking at the moment around, okay, we've had this formal process in play for a long time around who's a customer, who's a contact, who approves it, and that type of thing. So we're doing some thinking at the moment around, okay, what about the ad hoc stuff? Now, I've just met someone at a conference, I want to get into the system, I want to start communicating with them, can I use it for that? So we're starting to look at that at the moment. Science, technology, engineering and maths, everyone will know. Actually, I'm not going to talk politics, so we're in the middle of an election, so we'll leave that to one side. Big focus on STEM education. CSIRO does have a big program around education, so we do go out to students, be it at primary school, secondary school or tertiary education. So we're now utilising Dynamics to manage that line of business application, to manage those programs. Only 30 internal users in our CSIRO education unit, but potentially thousands of external ones. Okay, the big one. What we called opportunity to delivery. So opportunity to delivery is a researcher saying, I've got an idea, all the way through to we're finished. And absolutely everything in between. Contract administration, procurement, legal. And what we actually inherited, believe it or not, was 9 large programs of research, and we're talking 400 or 500 people in each program, where they were managing these things completely separately, no visibility, a heap of user input, manual input into generating reports, consolidating information. So this is, I have an opportunity, and we've leveraged the native opportunity module in Dynamics to do it, really getting visibility over that opportunity. We haven't embedded workflows, we haven't embedded strict workflows into the process. So we believed early that getting that information visible for people will keep people accountable for it. So we record the fact that a program director has approved the opportunity. So whoever the opportunity proponent is puts the opportunity and actually records the fact that a program director approved the opportunity. It doesn't workflow to them. It doesn't workflow to contract admin automatically, to legal, none of that. Okay, so we're relying on the basis that we're keeping the information visible and keeping people accountable for those type of things. We think that just makes it so much more maintainable, taking it forward. And it's actually working. You don't have to embed these rigid business rules into these workflows. SAP integration I mentioned before with our own integration work we've done. You can integrate obviously Dynamics and SharePoint natively, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. But the native experience really is just straight into a SharePoint site collection and document libraries. So we made the decision early, if we're going to take it from getting their opportunity approved and their project approved to providing an environment where we can also get a little bit of control over content and documents, then we'll spawn a SharePoint site for every single opportunity. So I've got an opportunity, I click save, spawns a SharePoint site, and I can start keeping content in there. We get through the opportunity process, we get it approved as a project, we spawn another SharePoint site. So that's just a web service call to SharePoint, just inserts an item into the SharePoint list, and just a PowerShell script to go off and generate the SharePoint site. 15 minutes later, the user's got their own dedicated SharePoint site for managing their document-based content. So there are current workloads. Anyone got any questions on that? Yep.
Norman, could you say a little bit more about the functional scope of the SAP integration?
Yeah, okay. So what we've done there is we've basically made the call that SAP is going to be a system of record for financial and HR information over time, and that's it. Okay, so we're trying to, where we can, actually take that, get that information, put it out into something that's a little bit more usable around, in this instance, like an opportunity. Okay, so our customer data being surfaced within that opportunity, or the interaction with that customer within that opportunity. So where we have our finance people and our HR people that use it day in, day out, they'll still interact with SAP. But we wanted to come back to what's the user experience like for a researcher, trying to narrow it down to 1 or 2 systems that they're actually interacting with in managing an opportunity or a project.
So will the researcher be building his project budget in CRM or SAP, do you think?
That's an excellent question. I'm so glad someone asked it. I'm going to, in a minute I'll answer it. Just give me 5 minutes. Because we're suffering some pain with that at the moment. We think we've got a solution. Well, Duncan tells me he's got a solution. All right. So, I saw before there's a number of BAs in the room or people who configure CRM. So the first, probably, I reckon one of the biggest insights we've had is the use of this particular plugin. So I know we're not supposed to be selling things here, but I'm not the vendor. But what we've found with the North 52 plugin, with the opportunity to delivering the customer work we've done, to do some of the customisation work we would have done previously, one of our developers said we would have created 40, 45 plus plugins to actually make that work. We've developed one. So, with all due respect to the software developers in the room, we only had to develop one, we didn't have to develop 40 or 45. What we did use, utilise is the North 52 plugin. Okay, so think of Excel and Excel formulas and what you can do with data in there. Well, we can do that with the North 52 plugin. So with custom fields or just the standard CRM fields, utilising that formula-based language, scheduling and all that to manipulate data. And it'll do all the trickery in the background around publishing a web service or a plugin and all that, just does it all in the background. So for those people who are morphing from what I call BAs into super BAs where they can really start configuring these solutions, I think that one in particular takes it to another level. It also means with scarce CRM developers at the moment, I can actually do more with less, with all due respect to the developers in the room. Okay, another one we've implemented just recently is the project timeline. It's out of kind of the XRM consultancy, which is actually owned by North 52. So what you're looking at here on screen, this is actually a project. And you can see you get straight into the summary area and the owner and that type of thing. But very right up the top, what we present them with is a timeline. Okay, so in this project, if they had billing milestones or technical milestones or that type of thing, we're actually just presenting it in a nice graphical format right up at the top of that entity, that screen.
So it's all from the configuration you did this one, or you had to create any plugins?
Yeah, no, this is a plugin.
No.
Yep. So.
So this is a third-party tool, and you can configure it to show whatever data you want to show it on an entity.
Yeah. So we took it a step further, and this one looks a little bit complex. But if I bring up a team member, Lucy here, and again some basic details about Lucy, her email, phone number, and that type of thing. But what we're starting to surface on here is the projects and opportunities that Lucy's involved in, just by using the plugin. Start to do some thinking around, okay, how long would that actually take me to develop if I was to do that from scratch? Okay. What are we looking at coming up? Staff international travel. Again, you remember the simple architecture diagram I showed you there before, so we will look at settling on IntelliDocs forms for that solution. And then potentially looking at Dynamics-based workflows and reporting for more complex stuff we want to do around reporting staff international travel, special approvals, that type of thing. Okay, probably a big focus on health and safety. It frustrates me, and I'm happy to say it, like even in an organisation like CSIRO, I have to go to the intranet, I have to search for a form, it's a PDF form. It's designed to be sent to one of those things that we invented 20 years ago. It's called a printer. You send it over there, you pick up a pen, and then in CSIRO, labs and we place with some dangerous stuff. So health and safety is a big thing because we've got lots and lots of forms that have to be sent to lots and lots of printers and filled out with lots and lots of pens. And then we scan it and we email it to someone and something happens with it. So there'll be a big focus shortly on digitising a lot of those forms. I mentioned before we have settled on Dynamics as our line of business platform. Okay, so what's flowing out a lot of those health and safety things, if there is a corrective action, that can be around anything. we've done inspection as a corrective action. We'll find that all those corrective actions now start working through Dynamics, through various workflows, various teams, that type of thing, that the organisation will have finally visibility over that type of information when it comes to health and safety. Contract management, again, we'll start to look at custom workflows around managing that end-to-end process, looking at document generation, how we start to generate contracts now, either through another add-in or CRM natively. Digital signatures is also on the cards. Project planning. So here's my answer to the question before. At the moment, we have been for, I don't know, probably the last 6 months, maybe 4.5 months seriously, looking at how do we plan people. So I've got an opportunity, goes through a high-level workflow, gets approved as a project, but we do have to plan people. We do have to plan our budget. So right now we have developed our planning tool in Excel with integration into Dynamics and integration into SAP. I mentioned before we do spawn a SharePoint site for each opportunity, each project. So that Excel sheet sits within those document libraries. People can go in, update details, it's all real time until they hit publish. Okay, so they can be playing with it, hitting publish, must be in that SharePoint site to then be published, the data to be published back into Dynamics. A lot of time, a lot of effort. I know we don't want sales pitches, but our partner at the moment is Dialogue, and they've done what I think is a fabulous job on it, using really legacy technology with what we're trying to do here. So I'm really keen to see what's coming in the next release or two of Dynamics natively around the project service and being able to plan people and generate WBSs and all that type of thing. I think that's something we need right now. We're going down a different path because we have to address it right now, but really looking forward to seeing what's coming in CRM. Yeah, we're not online, so it might be online in the next couple of weeks or months, but certainly by the end of the year, I'm hoping that's something we can really make use of. CSIRO services. Okay, so I mentioned before as part of our architecture, we are utilising ADX Studio, or about to utilise ADX Studio. So on the 1st of July, we will hopefully go live with our student portal. Students, primary school, high school, being able to come in, register for our programs, go through an approval process, all through the ADX Studio portal. The CSIRO actually sells services as well. So, and again, it's done in a rather archaic way at the moment. So we'll look at leveraging ADX Studio and natively CRM to start promoting and managing those services. That's it in a nutshell with what we've done, where we're going. What do I want to say, as part of that architecture at the moment, you don't see cloud. We've got nothing in the cloud yet. I think it's inevitable. I think, like I said, February last year we started with nothing, and we probably could have gone with CRM online. It wasn't onshore, so it's still in Singapore. Still had been through an IRAP certification, and we had some pretty hard deadlines that we committed to. So we still are on-prem. But those technologies that we've shown there, minus the Enterprise Service Bus, all of them have online cloud-based products for those now. So over time we will look at transitioning. But I also think it won't be just CRM online. It will be a joint transition with what we could look at utilising with Office 365. Any questions on the tech?
Norman, did you have to do a business value justification when you selected the technology platform?
The simple answer is no. So we have a choice. So we're faced with, we've got 4 or 5 months to deliver. We had set on a Microsoft platform for a lot of our stack already. We're part of the VSA2 agreement with federal government, and we put that to our CFO, and that was all approved. Bottom line. Yeah, again, we could go to and do an assessment over Salesforce and the like, but you're faced with the same type of problems around sovereignty and that type of thing. So I think we have a tendency to overanalyze things. And again, I know we have Commonwealth procurement guidelines and rules, and we follow those. But I think we have a tendency to overanalyze things, which might be a good segue into the next topic. Unless anyone's got some questions.
I have a question about teledocs forms versus CRM they chose not to use.
Yeah, another good question. Everyone hear that? So why do we choose the teledocs over CRM? Look, this might be my personal opinion more than anything, and sorry to Microsoft, but I think at the moment Dynamics CRM provides a good experience around, I'd still call them screens, but we really want to make that transition to a real web forms platform, and not be just reliant on CRM. And then thinking, okay, well, I've got a CRM form now, and where do I push it? Do I push it into a CRM workflow? So we want to actually abstract that level, because we might have things that won't go anywhere near CRM and a CRM workflow. So that's why we decoupled the whole forms experience.
So can't we read that one in the ADX Studio, that form?
Yeah, again we can. But with ADX Studio, we won't be making use of the portal technology for every single solution we do. Yeah. And again, coming back to, we really wanted to focus on what's the end user experience when it comes to forms. So whether I'm opening that up on a Surface, an iPad, through a browser, or we really wanted to be cognizant of what that end user experience was. So when someone in CSIRO goes to complete a form, that will be the experience. Okay.
With the North 52 plugin, do you see any issues with that moving to CRM online?
At the moment, no. It's supported online, but time will tell. Yeah, it's like any transition. Up the back.
Does it do reporting as well?
What's that?
Some sort of customized reporting as well? Does it do it? Not the tool report?
The North 52. I don't think from a reporting point of view. I mean, really, I think it's sitting at last count, and this might be able to help me, about 300 plus functions in there that you can utilise. Whereas I think CRM natively, and quote me, but around 20 or 25 or something like that. So it's really that level of detail that gets you around formulas and workflows and scheduling and a lot of the things we know you have to develop a plugin around. It just takes it away. And so reporting. Okay. A bit of an introduction to, and look, some of you might know this better than I, but how do we get from having nothing in March to something in August? We start with one of these. Okay, so this is, at last count, this is about 148 pages. Probably looks familiar to most of you. Yeah. So a heap of design specifications around business rules and what's going to happen and that type of thing. This one's even printed in colour, so it's really impressive. What's your name, David? Feel pretty good? Do this.
Waiting.
Round of applause. Ever seen a man hold up a house before?
How long did it take to create that?
Yeah, that's 12 to 14 months.
How accurate is it?
Do you want to know how much of it I used?
Yes.
3 pages. Yeah, so it's worth a house. Yeah. Now, with all due respect to the consultants in the room, if you are a consultant, but if you've got 3, 4, 5 people in a room, $2,000 a day each over 6, 8, 9, 12 months, yeah, it's serious. Like you're holding up a house.
In Forest.
And when I turn around and say I can use 3 pages of that goes down really, really well. Okay? So, what do we do it for? Why do we do these things? Okay? In my experience, this is what we do with them. Everyone know what this is? It's a shit umbrella. That's what it is. I mean, let's be honest. It is. When the shit comes down and someone says, why isn't this working? Why haven't you done that? Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? We do this. We point at this thing. And it gets you nowhere. Yeah, but it takes an element of courage and maybe even arrogance to say we don't need this. And what we did do, under those of you who heard of the Lean Startup, Eric Ries, that whole movement, if you haven't, go and Google it. It's really, really worth reading. You've got to turn it into something real though. And I reckon out of the whole work we did last year in 12 months, the thing I reckon our our group can hang its hat on isn't the solution that was delivered on the technology. It's the fact that we have our executive in our organisation now spruiking minimum viable product. They had, with all due respect, had no idea what it was. No idea what it was, but they get the concept of getting something done, getting it in the hands of people. Okay. I mentioned it's a lean startup. It's really, really simple. You build something, you put it in front of people, and you learn from it. Okay, so I remember the date, it was the Friday the 13th of all days. Friday the 13th of March 2015, and we stood on the soapbox and said, you'll have a product in 3 weeks. This after they'd spent, and I'm not going to put the figure on it, but do the maths, getting something that really couldn't help us. And 3 weeks later, we had a working product and we put it in front of them. So that's the power of CRM, that's the power of this platform, being able to configure it, and then start to deal with the hearts and minds of people. So they start to see this thing come to life. And all we showed them was just stock standard CRM stuff. But they had no idea. Put the product in front of people, build something, measure it, and then learn and pivot. What do I mean by learn and pivot? Learn and pivot means you need some idea of what you're going to build. So it's pointless. It's different if I need to know whether I'm going to build a house for my aging mother out the back of my house so that she can live gracefully in her older years, or I'm going to build a 20-storey residential complex. I need to know. But I don't need to know the detail of what's the colour on the walls for this apartment and that apartment. You don't have to get to that detail. You just have to know enough to build something. That's why we just looked at, when we did our requirements around this, we had the 3 pages, not enough. We needed something. But we only needed to define requirements around enough to build something. Early on, we did it in CRM. So we spent a lot of time building CRM screens, building basic workflows. Every 3 weeks we went back and put it in front of the client. After a while, we stopped doing that. They became accustomed to the CRM interface, what it could do, what it couldn't do. So we have reverted back to doing wireframes and mock-ups and that type of thing. Because you need to be mindful of how much time you're taking up with people who can configure the tool and develop in it. Early, we made the choice to do that because we needed to make people aware of what this product could do. Now, we can put a wireframe in it and they're familiar. They're familiar with the interface, what it can do. So when you're looking at requirements, just do enough. Just do enough so you can build something and get it back to them, and we settle on a 3-week turnaround. Remind everyone it's only version 1. Yeah, and that's really, really helpful when you do go out with version 1 and your executive have got their 2-minute videos promoting this thing saying, we're just reminding everyone it's only version 1, we need your feedback. Okay? But you do need to remind everyone it's only version 1. Get them to focus on what the important things are. Focus on the killer feature. Focus on the value. Yeah. So what we were always promoting here wasn't rigid workflows, it was the visibility. How are we actually going to keep them on the hook? It was actually showing them the information, getting it visible. Okay, how do we actually do it though? So you go from producing one of these things to not producing it. So we settled on, and we had a while ago, but we utilise Atlassian Confluence, Atlassian Jira to do all of our work. So our requirements are defined in Confluence, we're doing screen mock-ups and all that in Glyphy, so online diagrams. We're out mentioning people, drawing them back in to provide comments, provide feedback, managing backlogs, managing sprints, the whole thing. We're actually involving our customers in it. So we no longer produce these. No longer produce them. I think they're a complete and utter waste of time. Complete and utter waste of time. That's just a little intro into Lean Startup, minimum viable product. There's heaps of material out there. The hardest thing is actually getting buy-in with it. Yeah, but the thing is, demonstrate working software. Demonstrate working software. You can't beat it. Put a working, breathing product in front of someone. It doesn't have to work end to end. Show them enough. Get them on the hook. Get their feedback.
So what artifacts do you produce in your development phase, in your analysis phase? I mean, it's
still got to be artifacts, I guess they're useful to end users to describe what functionality you need, but also to develop things. So what
Yep.
did you reduce during this time? Were
They're-
there just requirements?
Yeah, they're literally sitting in Confluence wiki pages and Jira tasks. Yeah, so,
So it's still traditional requirements and wireframes, business process,
yeah, but,
diagrams, anything else?
yeah, all within the wiki. Yeah, so you'll see that doesn't change that much, but it's going away from having to produce 148 pages worth
Yeah.
and predict everything to let's just do enough, let's get the feedback. So with some of those requirements, we might work on them for a while, but we're doing those as really quick.
So the third-party organisation has to come in now after this process and the project has been completed and they need to understand what the system does. It's Confluence that has the source of information and you could produce a spec from it or...
I can produce any document from Confluence. So I still come back to what's the value of the content we're creating. And again, we're doing that iteratively. Most importantly, we're actually getting people involved in it. You know, it's one thing to go to a meeting and write something down, put in a document and email that around and go through so many track changes like that. To me, that's just not how you produce it. That's the iterative nature of doing it in the Web 2.0 way.
How do you manage your release process in this one, the solution?
So nothing's perfect, and you know, I'm by no means standing up here saying we're perfect. A lot of manual effort at the moment. Okay, so again, it's something we're looking at a lot closer now. We've had still a relatively small team, you know. I don't know, all up involved in the development, you're probably looking at 25 people, which is manageable. But now we have a lot of those systems connected. We're taking a closer look at how we do more formal release management, where we have more control over it, because there's just so many connected pieces in it now.
So when you divide you to work in the solution, so you define a perfect line to do the work, or how do you manage to work multiple people in one solution?
Oh, okay. So from a management and visibility point of view, we do the scrums thing. Yep.
No, working on the solution itself, because if somebody overrides, then it's going to be a problem. Because if you will have a single solution, so how do you manage that kind
Yep.
of
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so within CRM what we do is, you're talking specifically about CRM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Norm said, that we create Jira tasks for the entire team, and we divide the tasks in such a way that there is clear delineation of who's doing what, so that two people are not working on the same entity or on the same component at the same time.
That's what
Yeah.
How did you handle the testing and did you do like a big traditional UAT activity? Or?
Okay, so what's and I'll probably go from recent experience. So we do have, especially this opportunity to deliver, it touches on so many business units in the organisation. So we will have a business process owner around the contracting or projects, so involving them initially. But if we're doing UAT, we're generally doing a number of rounds of it. So again, starting smaller. So if we do for our next release UAT round one, it would be the more small contained group, really trying to, because again, we are going out with not a product that's actually ready to go into production, but we're going out with a product we've done, put in front of them, we've got that feedback, now they can get their hands on it and start using it, but we want that contained. Some expectation management around you will find things that are wrong, but that's okay. You're allowed to tell us, we're not going to test and find everything. So where we'd like to probably concentrate more of our effort is on the integration testing. Again, it's a personal belief, but I talked before about a super BA. I think a BA has a role in testing and quality. Where I'd like to see us get to eventually is where, outside of integration testing, because that to me is a little bit different, but when we're actually testing solutions, is really looking at that whole quality assurance. So how we make the traditional stuff, how are we making our requirements testable, are our developers testing properly, are our end users testing properly? So take that to more of coaching people how to test properly as to us actually doing the testing. That sort of information. But that's somewhere else. Just my fault, John.
Just one. You mentioned about, like selling the idea of CRM to the end users. I've had a few bad experiences, like when you design everything and the end users get involved, and then they start to complain they have to do all these 5 different clicks to get to one area, and then they have to learn to navigate, and they would really like to have everything in one unified screen. How did you sell them the idea that, yeah, you have to learn to navigate and open up, your grids and
So we have, I guess we have a philosophy we've presented a couple of times, and that's demonstrate it right the first time. Yeah, so even when we went out and showed them the native CRM product the first time, we got rid of all the other workloads you've got in there. We got rid of them and brought them back down to, okay, well, here's an opportunity. Yeah, so start to get them to focus on what they need to focus on as opposed to all of this other stuff. And also then being critical around what their requirements are. So, okay, you want to capture this information, you're going to report on it. And if you're not, well, why are you capturing it? Yeah, so really start to focus people on, okay, well, why are we actually doing this? Because what we've learned with our previous software development, if you try and satisfy everyone, you end up satisfying no one. You end up with this big complex piece because you've had so many stakeholders getting their hands on it, instead of looking at it end to end. It's not easy. We have one of our design philosophies up front was we're designing with the researcher in mind. Yeah, we have 4 of them, we're designing with the researcher in mind. So every time we put it in front of a business process owner around contract management, any of the support areas, we're designing with the researcher in mind. How does that satisfy them? And then having a researcher involved in those discussions and trying to simplify it. There is no perfect answer to it.
But I think like your end users are probably a little bit smarter than the average people in the fast food industry. So you have to design it differently for that audience.
Yeah, I don't know about the smart.
They're not dumb.
They're not. I think we also, and again, a lot of these weren't rigid things you can do. We had this concept of above the line, below the line. Yeah, so even looking at an opportunity through to a project, above the line, the organisation will do it in a consistent manner. Yeah, so how do you go and tell 6,000 to 7,000 people you're going to do it the same way? You don't get down into the depths of this is how you will run a project. So we said if you're going to put up an opportunity and move that through effectively, not a rigid workflow, but just 3 or 4 basic steps, get it to a project approval, that's all we want to know. You're going to plan your people around it, that's all we want to know. Getting down into, I prefer this tool over this tool over this tool to run the actual projects, we didn't go down that far. So people want to utilise a Basecamp instance to run their project, Jira, Microsoft project, it doesn't matter. At that level they can do whatever they like, but at this level it's done in a consistent manner. So I think with that there is no hard and fast rules around it. We're just trying to get people focused on, again, minimum viable product. Yeah, let's get something in there, let's get it out the door, and let's iterate through it. Conversely, we could sit back and produce our 148-page design document, build something that's going to take us over 9 months, and we will end up with that. Yep.
Do you have any advice on how to, build process improvement into the process? And are there any good news stories you can tell us about that?
So is that the actual business process
Yeah,
we're writing the system around?
Yeah, rather than system process, the business process.
Yeah, actually, I think one of the best things we did, and again I said it before, demonstrate working software. So we said every 3 weeks we'll bring you back a working product. And this would be a conservative estimate. We would run every 3 weeks we'd run those, they'd go for 2 to 3 hours. At least 75% of those discussions had nothing to do with the technology we showed them. It was all to do with the business process. Why are we doing this? Why are we changing that? Designing with the researcher in mind. We've got the researcher there saying, well, no, we don't want that. You know, whereas before we probably would have just followed the lead of each of those support areas. So I think actually getting that system in front of people, conservatively, 75% of the discussion, I used to switch off because they're sitting there talking business process. They're not talking change this field, change that flow. None of that. Yeah, so I can't reiterate it enough. Regular releases, get in front. You don't have to release to production, but at least show them progress every 3 weeks.
What is the percentage of configuration of the customization?
Oh, I don't even guessing. Did you hear that?
So a lot of it, like Norm said, we started using North 52 pretty early into the development cycle. Before that, we had developed a few plugins, so those are the only plugins that we have in the system. Everything else is either natively through CRM or using North 52, which is again a very business-friendly language. So the actual amount of code in the system is very less, considering the complexity of the system.
So that's and now I'm going from memory. I think the North 52 plugin is about 20k per organisation. So yeah, return on investment, that's huge.
So far we've written about 100 such, we call them formulas within North 52. Each of these would, if we didn't have North 52, you would be looking at one or more plugins for each of those formulas. So we managed to reduce 100 plus plugins to 0.
So how do you manage like scope creep given the so many iteration you have in the project? And I understand you have that thick document, nobody would like to just burn off the deployment. What measures like you have in place to control somewhere of the lines?
Yeah, look, there's always the traditional stuff, like you can rattle them all off. I mean, look, one of the big ones really was our project sponsor, so our CFO is the project sponsor. With that, she actually had a lot of the support areas under her day-to-day umbrella. So there was an element of, I guess, a stick applied if you needed to. But I think, and these might sound like motherhood statements, but I'm big on those guiding principles, and we had people repeating them. Design with the researcher in mind. So when we came up against those challenges, like I want to do this when I'm looking at contracting, I want to do that when I'm in our project support centre, it was always coming back to, well, how's it helping the researcher? So try and keep it control of it that way.
There's not really any scope creep when you do a minimal bulk or agile product. It doesn't exist. Scope creep is a more waterfall, traditional, fixed set.
Yep.
That's it. So
yeah. So again, it's trying to get them to focus on what's the important thing. Like if we only had 4 months to build this thing, what would you want? That's what we're going to go and do.
did you have a budget prior to and it comes
Yeah.
under or over budget?
Yeah, so again, this is another one. When we budget for this, okay, we budget for software, but it was we're budgeting for a team. So we're going to fund a capability, and like I said, we partner with Dialogue, and that comes in at a number. So whether it's 12, 15, 18 people, and that's what it's going to cost you for 12 months. And again, it's a challenge. Are you going to get it all done? I don't know. I'm relying on you to tell me what do you want first. And I'll give you something in 3 weeks, and another 3 weeks I'll come back with something else. But that is hearts and minds stuff. But I also believe they were faced with the fact that they'd spent a long time producing a document, they had to do something.
So how do you sort of like, when we're doing our capital bids and these things, our CFO, he wants to know dollar and cent.
Yep.
And in this sort of methodology, there is no dollar and cent figure you can put up. And he wants it before 6, 12 months out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look,
How did you change his mind or her mindset?
Yeah, and look, we beyond the CRM stuff. I mean, we started doing this probably 8 or 9 years ago, and you don't get an acceptance up front. But you got to start small. You got to start building it. And I'm doing CapEx bids myself, so. But again, it's funding. there's a change in thinking, and it's slowly happening. Rather than going from funding projects to funding a capability, funding a service. So and look, that's not happening with everyone, but we are doing it in there. So we do a lot of stuff around research data management. So what are you going to build? So what do you want? So we fund the capability. We're 12, 15 people sitting there, and it is a focus for us. It's a strategic focus, and we'll say for the year it's going to cost you this. It's up to you, to tell us what the priorities are, to give us the information we need. We will give you a working product every 3 weeks, and you've got to bring them into that. The whole agile thing's an attitude, really. It's not a process or a methodology. Some people get it, some people will never get it, and I get that. But again, all of those artifacts, all of those ceremonies, being able to do sprint planning, being able to demonstrate working software, I've said it probably 10 times now, but that to me is the key. Show them something, show them regularly, get the feedback.
Might just give it a break.
Yep.
Thanks very much, that's
No,
fantastic.
that's all right.
Thank you.